I met Richard Keddington back in, I think, 2015 as the new CEO of the Watertown Regional Medical Center. He's been a great friend ever since. He sits on our Business Advisory Council. He's a member of the Watertown YMCA Board of Directors. That's not what we call it. We call it the Glacial Heritage YMCA. So he's a board member for that, very active in the community. He and his wife Holly live here in Watertown with 5 children. So pray for Holly, right? And then we have Robert Wampler with us, and he has been married for 34 years, has 2 adult children that are out on their own. It's always a blessing to have an empty house, yes. He's the president of Short-Term Acute Care. I will have to ask you about that later. For Scion Health, where he has oversight over 17 hospitals in 13 states, one of which, of course, is Watertown Regional Medical Center. So Richard introduced him this morning as, "This is my boss, be nice to him," right? Yes, yes. He is also a CPA, which I promise I will not hold against you. Okay, good. And he's from Tennessee. So we're glad to have both of these gentlemen with us today. Richard, are you going to start us off? All right, brother, come on up. Richard Keddington.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. I just want to thank Steve for the introduction, and I get a chance to interact with this university, being on the Business Advisory Board, and I just have to say that the students and the faculty here are just very impressive, and I get an opportunity to listen to some of the business students give presentations, and it's always a fun time, and so it's enjoyable to actually be the one presenting instead of judging the presenters this time. I thought we'd start off and have a little bit of fun and just see how well everybody here actually knows the hospital in town before we talk. So I'm going to ask some questions, and let's see how well you actually know the hospital. And I'll actually have people raise their hand to see if you want to answer the questions. So we'll just kind of go from here. And the guys from Moss cannot answer the questions about the building itself because they basically built the building. So Tony, you can't answer any of the questions. So opening in 1906, where was the first hospital in Watertown located? All right, we'll give you 4 answers. On Highway 26, just outside of town. Hospital Drive, where the hospital sits now. On Main Street, the Schiffler residence. Steve, put your hand down. I haven't called on you yet. I'm joking. Yeah, and then Western Avenue, right across from Luther Prep. Anybody want to answer that one besides Steve? Steve can answer if he wants to. The cameraman's saying a number. What number do you think it is? C? Yeah, that's right. C. Yeah, it's right on Main Street, so we'll kind of go from there. Yeah. All right. What year was the hospital built? 1971, 82, 85, or 97? Anybody want to take a guess at that one? Carol, you want to answer. What? A? 71, that's right. Yeah, 1971, yeah. All right, we'll do, one more. How many CEOs have there been since the current hospital opened? 2, 3, 4, or 8? And we mean the hospital where it's currently sitting right now. 2, 3, 4, or 8? You want to say 3? Yeah, 3. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So I'm the 3rd CEO since we opened in 1971. So my 2 predecessors were both there for 20 years. So we have quite a bit of longevity. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm just going to give an overview of the hospital, make sure everybody understands the baseline of what happens at the hospital, what we do. I'll describe the joint venture just a little bit. And then Robert will come up here and give an introduction to Scion Health, a new health system that we're partnered with, that we're part of. And then I'll finish by talking about the realities of COVID in Watertown, and then we'll just do some Q&A. So who is Watertown Regional Medical Center? I hope you can see that language, but I think the first thing I want to talk about is just the advanced level of care that we bring right here in Watertown. I think we have more advanced care and more advanced capabilities than what a lot of people realize, and so I just want to walk through that a little bit. The first three are things we've introduced in the last year: 24/7 heart attack care. So this is something where if somebody has a heart attack in the community in the middle of the night, we do have the capability of placing urgent coronary stents. Most hospitals our size don't have the capability of doing that. Out of the 6 hospitals that are in about a half an hour range of here, we're one of 2 hospitals that does that. So some good level of care there. Also, in our intensive care unit, we have critical care physicians, intensivists that are available through electronic technology, taking care of those of the sickest patients that we can take care of. We do robotic surgery in our hospital, which is pretty interesting. The robot isn't doing the surgery on its own. It's not like AI, and so I always want to clarify that because people get a little nervous when you say a robot's doing surgery. But it's a surgeon working with a robot to make very precise incisions and to have the recovery time of a patient be much better. We do stroke care. We work with UW through advanced technology with cameras in our emergency department where stroke physicians can monitor a stroke patient. We do laser eye surgery. We have 3D technology doing mammography to detect any irregularities might be there. If a patient's getting a total joint replacement, meaning a hip or a knee replaced, we have technology called Joint Point, which measures exactly the spot where a new hip or a new knee should be. I know it's a little breakfast time, so I won't get too much into that. But it measures exactly where a hip or a knee should be placed to make sure the patient has the best outcomes after that. And then we have some really advanced physicians on our staff as well. Perinatologists, those are physicians that monitor the health of the baby before they're born. Sports medicine fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon and a total joint fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon. Spine surgery at our hospital. Neurology, which is a brain physician. Pulmonologists, lung physicians. Interventional cardiology, those are the physicians that place those stents, and then retina surgery and cornea surgery. So a lot of really great level of care at the hospital that a lot of people don't know about. And I think the level of care at our hospital, if you look at what the rating agencies say, is really top-notch and some of the best in the country. CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or the federal government, they've rated us a number of years in a row as a 5-star hospital, the highest designation of quality of care and patient experience that they give to a hospital. If you don't want to believe the federal government, which I could understand, then there's a Leapfrog Group, which is the most prominent non-governmental agency that looks at quality scores for hospitals, and they've given us an A grade for the last few years in a row. You do see some Bs in the past for our patient quality and patient outcomes. And then the American College of Cardiology has also designated us as a chest pain center accredited for patients who have chest pain, they're having heart attacks, as a place to come to get care. And we have the right physicians, the right staff, the right processes to take care of patients in need. I want to thank the Board of Trustees. It's a local board that oversees this quality of care and the level of care that we provide. It's made up of physicians and local members of the community that look for that and look after the quality of care. There's some people in the community that volunteer their time to be on that board. Kathy Wagner, who's here, is the Board of Trustees chair. Other names that you might know from the community: Tim Rotes, Katie Higgins, Marcy Tessman, all are involved, and we appreciate their volunteer hours to help us make sure we're delivering the best quality of care. So I want to pivot, and I just want to talk about the ownership structure and who actually owns Watertown Regional Medical Center. This is something that Steve had said I should spend some time on, so appreciate Steve saying we should talk about this. So there's 2 organizations that own Watertown Regional Medical Center, and they come together and have a joint venture that oversees maybe what I'd call the ownership interest of the hospital. And that's the Greater Watertown Area Health Foundation. And we have 4 members of the community that serve on that board. 3 of them are here today: Randy Phelps, Carol Quest, and Dave Schrader. and then also John Kasanovich. And they represent the foundation and the community on the board. And then Scion Health is the other owner and kind of the operating partner, the health system that's involved. And we have 4 members of the 4 members on that board as well. And Robert Wampler will tell you more about Scion Health in a few minutes. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the foundation because they are a separate entity, but as an owner of the hospital, I just do want to touch on this. The foundation was created in 2015 when an original transaction occurred that created this joint venture partnership, and the foundation has done a ton of good in the community since then. Tina's the CEO of the foundation, and she and I are good friends, and it's always fun to see what they're doing for the health of our community. And they focus on things like strong families, kindergarten readiness, school success, and a lot of great things that lead to good health outcomes in the community. So the hospital and the foundation are really tied together in this goal of improving the health and the health outcomes of the community. And so we partner with them in a lot of ways. And maybe the most important partnership that we have is a financial partnership we have with them, to where in the nature of the partnership, we give 20% of the net income of the hospital to the foundation on a regular basis. So that way the foundation can continue to work at building the wellness and the health of the community with things like improving mental health in our community, or promoting healthy eating and lifestyle choices, and building strong families. And so not only do we at the hospital get a chance to think about the medical care that we provide the community, but we also get to continually give to the foundation so they can continue to help the community as well. I just want to talk about the economic impact of the hospital as well. These are some interesting stats. I think we're the biggest employer in town. We have over 700 employees. The school district might be there, so I always hear that it's either us or it's the school district. This data is from 2020. We don't have the 2021 data quite firmed up yet, so we use 2020 data here. But in 2020, we paid $48 million in payroll to over 700 employees. We donated more than $5 million of care to people who couldn't afford their care that they needed. We're a tax-paying entity, so we paid over $5 million in taxes. And then we, besides contributing to the local foundation, contributed to a lot of organizations, so you can see up there. So not only do we think a lot about the medical care of the community and partner with the foundation, but I think we're also a major economic driver in the community as well. So with that, I'll give it to Robert, who will tell us a little about the health system that we're a part of, Scion Health.
Which one is the go forward?
That one backwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for allowing us to come and talk. I truly believe that I am in a Baptist institution when nobody is sitting in the front row here. I can say that as a Baptist without any, I'm convicted here. So, you know, you always got the front rows empty when you're in the Baptist church, if you ever attend one. So, Scion Health. Who is Scion Health? Give you a little background. Scion Health is 82 days old as of today. On December the 24th of 2021, Scion Health became in existence as a spin-off of LifePoint Health. So, take you back a little ways. Why Scion Health? Why the spin-off? LifePoint was a spin-off 22 years ago of HCA. So you have HCA, they spin off LifePoint. 22 years later, they spin off Scion Health. And the definition of Scion, and it's not the Toyota car that is no longer in existence. If you look up the definition of Scion, it is of royal descent, or it is a twig or a root made for grafting. So very appropriate name in Scion and in health. So we are, in July of last year, LifePoint went into a transaction to purchase Kindred Healthcare. That transaction occurred on December the 23rd. And so the executives of LifePoint sat down, looked at Kindred, who is long-term acute care, LTAC, and then looked at LifePoint, which is 88 hospitals, and said, how can we make a hospital another company and it be a strong company? And so they took the 61 LTACs, took 18 facilities, 17 hospitals, but took those and put them together and made Scion Health. So there's nearly 22,000 employees. Again, we got 61 LTACs, long-term acute care, and then we've got 18 short-term acute care communities that we are in. And those are spread out over 25 states. The short-term acute care is in 13 of those 25 states. So this is just a slide for, we've got 79 hospitals, 25 states, $3.4 billion of net revenue. There's over 7,000 licensed beds in our company and 161,000 adjusted admissions. And you might say, what's an adjusted admission? Well, what that is it's a factor that we use, take the outpatient business, and we factor that on top of the inpatient and come up with what we call an adjusted admission in healthcare. On the short-term acute care, on the stacks, we get within 9 of those hospitals, we have behavioral health units also. We've got over 500 employed physicians, and we do over 64,000 surgical cases within that company. And you look back at when you spin off, start up a company, if you're financially minded, you look at the balance sheet at first to say, just how well capitalized is this company? How well established are they? And then in healthcare, and in most businesses, there's this ratio of equity to debt. When Scion Health came into existence on the 24th, we were at a 3. LifePoint, when it spun us off, was greater than 4.5. And these ratios, it's kind of like golf. The lower the score, the better. So we were in a very good balance sheet position when they spun us off. So our founders and our executives were very thoughtful to make sure that the company was well established from the beginning. This is a slide of our executives, and if you look across the spectrum, there's 4 of us, the top 2 on your left, Rob J. and Danny Brzezinski, and then myself and Lisa Estrada, we all came from LifePoint. The other folks, Joel and Mike and Doug and Jeff and Todd, came from Kindred. So it was a good combination, good makeup of the Kindred folks and the LifePoint folks. So let me back up just a little bit also to talk about, Scion. One question that Steve asked is, why Watertown? How did Watertown get picked or put in? And Randy's asked that question, and others, even Richard asked that question. And so as we think about what we're trying to do with Scion, Watertown was a very strong, what I'll call middle-sized hospital within LifePoint. So when you're establishing another company, you want to take some of the stronger, well-established pieces, and you want to put it in your company. And so Watertown was at the top of that list for us when we were thinking of the size of the hospitals, based on the care that it gives. It's 5-star, Leapfrog A. What better facility? And it is financially strong too. Would you rather you want to anchor a new company? So that's why Watertown was selected, because we said we want Watertown. in this portfolio. You can't have all A's, but you got to have your share of A's so that you can at least have a solid company. And so that's the reason why Watertown was selected. So strategic, I'll be real quick here, is it kind of goes to the point I was trying to make, is to create a scaled and diverse healthcare platform. And what I mean by that is that as a small 17 hospitals, you can move a little bit faster with your short-term acute care than you can when you're 88, potentially. And so as we think about growth, as we think about joint ventures, as we think about growing the in-market type stuff, we believe that as a smaller company, we'll be able to move a little faster to do those things. We've already got some offers out right now that we're working on, where we're going to look at joint venture, a diagnostic imaging center in a town. We're going to look at potential other acquisitions, radiation oncology in another center, renal in another, and all of those are focused around joint venturing with other small companies to help us grow. So we believe that small, scalable will allow us to be very nimble, move quickly, and again, help the communities grow. Optimize, innovate, grow. I already talked about service line expansions. On the innovate side, we're part of value-based care right now in Watertown. It's called bundle payment. Watertown is a part of that. They've done very well. And what that is it's based upon your metrics of cost, and we get paid a certain amount for the continuum of care, and it's upon us to make sure that we manage that continuum of care to the lowest price that it can, but at the same time have great quality. Digital, you saw over the last 2 years where telehealth has been very prominent. You had just a few doctors probably back in 2019. I'll use Vanderbilt as an example. Vanderbilt, prior to 2020 pandemic, had less than 100 doctors using telehealth. After 2020, they have over 500 doctors that are now on board with telehealth. So it was there. It's amazing how you take a crisis and it'll push you somewhere. And that's what it did. It pushed the healthcare environment to get into the telemedicine, to get a little bit advanced. So that's part of the innovate. And then the grow, I discussed that along with mergers, acquisition, joint venture relationships. And the joint venture relationship that we have here in Watertown has been very successful. And, back a few years ago when David, who showed up, talked about the LifePoint acquisition. David is a great leader. He's still the CEO of LifePoint. You're kind of getting the second in myself today instead of Rob J. But we're very excited about what's been done here in Watertown over the last 6 years or so. Richard's done and his team have done an excellent job to improve the quality, improve the services here in the community. If you think about LifePoint and what it really stood for, it was just a few words: making communities healthier. That was their motto: make communities healthier. Well, it's upon us as Scion Health and Watertown to continue that legacy, to continue to grow that, to grow out that shoot so that it can be a strong tree. But looking forward to growing this company. Again, we're 82 days in. We've got a lot to do and we've got a lot to learn, but we know that with Watertown is one of those short-term acute care, we can get there. So talk about culture. It really starts with the leadership team that I showed earlier. It starts with Rob. It starts with myself. It's doing the right things for the right reason. There's been a lot discussed over the last several years about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We do have a diversity, equity, inclusion team within Scion. We have a group of folks pushing that along. The quality and safety, it's got to be there. It's my goal to get all of our short-term acute care, 90% of them, to at least an A or B or 4 or 5-star hospital. We're not there today. We're 59% of them. So we've got some work to do. But the goal is to get 90% of them there. And then people. It all starts with people. If we don't have quality people within our organization, leading our organizations have a tendency to stumble and fall. And it takes the people at the bedside, the nurses, the radiology techs, the ER doctors, everybody to make an organization. And I know as business owners out there, you guys are feeling the same thing that we are, and getting people has been somewhat difficult. And the question is, where does it all end? I wish I knew. Somebody asked me that yesterday on one of our calls, and I said if I knew that answer, I probably wouldn't be doing this job. I'd be out consulting with everybody, giving them the right answer. I think it's just continuing to make sure that we give our people an organization that they can trust, or give them a good work-life balance and a fair pay. I think that's where it all lands. So I do appreciate you guys letting Richard and I speak today. Appreciate Steve, you opened up in this your university here for us this morning to come and talk. And I appreciate the support of the individuals to Watertown and to the hospital. The one thing that I know about, as I've said on economic in small communities, when you're looking for companies that come to your community, they usually ask 2 things. What's your education like? What can the people that we hire, what kind of education can our employees' children get? And what kind of health care do you have? So based on where I'm standing and what I understand about this university and the elementary and the high school here, you guys are knocking that out of the park. And we hope that we're holding up our end of the deal by giving you a quality hospital that your folks can go to and get care when they're needed. So again, appreciate your all's support, and thanks for letting us be here.
I'll just finish up and talk a little bit about COVID, which is a topic that I think some of us don't want to be talking about because we've been talking about it for 2 years. At the same time, if we're given a hospital presentation, we should probably talk about COVID because that's been ever present on our minds. So at the hospital, we've kind of defined our role threefold related to the pandemic. 1, taking care of patients, number 2, testing, and then number 3, vaccinating people who want to get vaccinated. So I'm just going to talk about that real quick. So we played a big role, I think, over the last couple of years in testing people for COVID-19. So this is kind of a trend line of how many COVID tests we've run, and this is a cumulative graph that shows for inpatients, people in the ED, people out of primary care clinics that we run. We've run over 30,000 tests. This was as of a couple weeks ago that we'd run over 30,000 tests. The highest volume month of tests that we ran was in October of 2020, and you can see that it rose again at the end of last year. About 19% of the people that we've tested for COVID for the last couple of years have come positive with COVID, which is a pretty high percentage for a community. And so we've definitely had COVID right here in Watertown for the last couple of years, and it's made an impact on the hospital. I'm sure a lot of your organizations, a lot of your families as well. So, out of the 19% of people that have tested positive for COVID, when I give that number, people often ask me, all right, but how many were really sick? Yeah, because we all know people who had COVID that weren't that sick. But there was a number that got really sick. And so I think this slide, can kind of help explain that. Out of the 19% of 30,000 people that we tested that were positive for COVID, 439 of those people were sick enough to be admitted to the hospital over the last couple of years, and to our hospital specifically. And when you say, okay, well, what does that mean in terms of, how long were they in the hospital and what does that look like? As of a couple weeks ago, that equals 1,913 COVID patient days, so days where people in our hospital were being treated for COVID. And I know that number is a little hard to digest, so I'll kind of put a little context behind just what that's felt like for the last couple of years, and what that's felt like at moments, not continuously through the pandemic, but at moments is not enough room in the inn at times. And so we've had moments where people came to the emergency department and there weren't literally enough beds in our hospital or any of the surrounding hospitals to care for these patients. And they were in the emergency department waiting for a place to go. We had an interesting experience. This was about 12 months ago at the end of the first kind of wave. And every hospital during this time was calling other hospitals to try and find beds to admit patients to that had COVID. And we got a call from a hospital up in Door County, and they said, we have a patient that is not COVID positive, but we can't find a place that has enough beds for them. And they're having coronary issues. They need a coronary stent placed emergently, and so we'd like to transfer a patient from Door County down to Watertown to get a coronary stent placed. And so that's about a 2.5-hour drive, and they'd called all the hospitals in Green Bay and Milwaukee, and so they came to us, and we were able to take that patient. Luckily, we had enough beds at that time to be able to take that patient and be able to get them the care they needed. But I think that's just a highlight of kind of what it's felt like in hospitals, trying to find the resources to take care of these patients. And I think when you think about the staff that have worked a lot of hours, that have worked incredibly hard to take care of these incredibly sick patients, that have left family and worked maybe a little bit more than they should have to take care of the people in our communities. I just feel an incredible amount of gratitude for the work of the nurses and the physicians and the respiratory therapists who have really taken care of us and our community through the pandemic. And so if you know a nurse, if you know a physician, if you know a respiratory therapist, if you know somebody that has worked hard in a hospital or in a healthcare setting, if you know someone who works at public health, I would definitely, when you talk to them, give them your gratitude for the work that they've given over the last couple of years. Just a final thought about working in a hospital in Watertown. I wouldn't say that more than a week or two goes by that I'm out and about, away from work, and I'm at my kid's soccer, game or a daughter's event or at church or something like that, and somebody doesn't come up to me and say, "Hey, I was in your emergency department last night," or my father got eye surgery, or whatever it is, and that we get to talk about the healthcare needs in the community. And it's just such an honor to be running a hospital in a community like this, to where we get to take care of the people that we care about the most. That's our family, our friends, our neighbors. My wife's had 3 babies at our hospital, which is fun. I think they might treat us a little better when we're there, but my wife's had 3 babies at the hospital, and so it really is just an honor to be able to be working in a place where we get to take care of those people. And so I'm just grateful that I get to have a job where like I say, we're taking care of the people that we care about the most. So with that, we'll just take any questions that anybody has about any of the topics we've covered today. And if it's a Robert question about Scion, I might have him answer. If it's about anything else, I'll do my best, and then we'll go from there.
Oh,
there we go.
Certainly you have a question.
Got somebody right over here.
What percentage of the nursing staff is travel nursing? I know that's kind of a big hot topic.
Yeah.
So I was curious what that's for Watertown.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I'll repeat the question. I think everybody heard it because he had a microphone, but I'll kind of answer on that. And the question he had is what percentage of the nursing staff at Watertown Regional Medical Center are travelers? And I don't know exactly the percentage, But I could say that there's quite a number of travelers, or agency staff is what we use. And that's a really common thing in healthcare, is that there's a number of nurses when they finish school, because of the flexibility that they get doing agency or travel work to come. So there is a percentage that are there. I don't know the exact percentage. I think we might have 10 in the building right now that are there, give or take. Robert looks at the numbers like I do, but I think it's about 10 nurses that are there. We employ, I don't know, 80 or 90, so it's not like this massive percentage or anything like that. But a number, and we're grateful that they come and they help out our community when we have the need. So great question. Thanks. Yeah.
What's your biggest staffing gap right now?
Maybe front desk. So I think it's at the entry-level positions where we're seeing a lot of movement. I think that when you're looking at entry-level positions, there's a lot of people who are looking, and we're not competing for labor there with healthcare necessarily, but just Quick Trip. You see them raising their rates and going from there. So it's on a lot of those entry-level positions, maybe dishwashers, housekeepers, things like that. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Is Scion interested in expanding in Wisconsin?
I'll let him take that one. I know the answer, but the question was, is Scion interested in expanding our footprint in Wisconsin?
Definitely. No, we'd love to expand. And Richard's had some conversations of how can we, if it's not expansion, how can we affiliate or even work with some of the smaller hospitals around you? What's that? The one hospital that you're working with now with cardiology.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't want them to say, Richard, you're talking about our hospital and go and buying it or something like that. But yeah, we definitely want to grow in Wisconsin as a company. I'm speaking beyond maybe my pay grade here, but I think that Wisconsin's a great place to run a hospital. We have great people here in Wisconsin, and so we want to be able to take care of the healthcare needs of the people in this great state. Yeah, definitely.
So can you explain the ownership of Scion Health? Is it still part of LifePoint and Kindred?
So the ownership is, Apollo Global is the primary owner of LifePoint. It's the private equity partner behind it. They are Scion's primary equity partner. And LifePoint does have a small investment into Scion. So there is some connection there, but the operations and everything else is pretty much Scion Health and Apollo.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool setup if you think about it. I get the opportunity to use the resources of a big system like Scion to be able to use to help our community, but then we also have this joint venture to where we get the needs of the community loud and clear. So it's a really interesting combination that we have here in Watertown to take care of the healthcare needs of the community. I think you had a question. Is that true? Yeah. This one right up here, Steve. Yeah. In the green white leaf shirt. Yeah.
I'm getting my steps in.
So does the hospital have any plans to expand behavioral health services?
It's a really good question. So just to recap the question, does the hospital have plans to expand behavioral health services? When we think about behavioral health, we think about it in a couple different ways. There's the outpatient behavioral health counseling component of what we do, and then there's the inpatient component of what we do. Meaning admitted patients. From an outpatient perspective, I'll just describe what we do. We have a behavioral health, mental health counseling clinic called Directions, where we have, I think, 5 counselors that are helping different categories of people, whether it be adults or kids or people with addictions. And then we also have an inpatient psychiatry unit. That unit is specifically designated for about the 65 and older population that we have. So at this time, there is one thing on our strategic plan that we're contemplating, which is expanding the inpatient psychiatry services. There's just so much need in the area for psychiatric help that it's there. But no final decision has been made yet on if we're going to do that. But it's something we're contemplating. We're working with actually these guys right over here to see how much it would cost to build out the space and everything like that. So it's on the strategic plan, but no final decision's been made. And I love the question because I think sometimes we talk about mental health different than we talk about cardiac health or orthopedic health, and it's just as important, if not more so right now. So it's a really, really great question. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone else. Really going to let them off the hook that easy, huh?
Not sure the exact phrasing of this, but
yeah.
As we employ folks, I just met with a new employee yesterday and was giving him the packet. My person that normally handles that is on vacation, so I got to pinch hit. But one of the questions that comes up is obviously medical care, but also they look at insurance as just similar. Is there any differences? I mean, we're in Dean Care Plan. Yeah. Is there any changes with Scion? How one of my employees will interact with the hospital differently?
Gotcha. So I think the question, let me recap it to make sure I understand, is because we've moved to a health system called Scion Health, is there any change in how your business and its employees and the insurance you have will change as a result, and how we work with those insurance companies? Can it even get better? Got it. So the answer is that when we work with insurance companies, that those contracts are, I want to say, signed at a local level, meaning it's Watertown Regional Medical Center that's contracting with, you said Dean for you? With Dean. And so the transaction that's occurred is really silent to the insurance companies. Now, can we get better? Absolutely, we can get better is the question, because I think sometimes employees are paying too much for their insurance. And I think this harkens back to what Robert was saying about value-based care and our initiatives about how do we bring more value to the healthcare dollar. So we're definitely looking at those opportunities. But from a, hey, is there anything today that's changed? No, there's nothing that's changed. It's silent to the insurance companies. Really, really great question as a business owner. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So my son was interested in the laser eye surgery.
Yeah.
So maybe how long have you been able to do that at the hospital, and maybe how many patients do you have come through that?
Gotcha. Is he interested in performing it or receiving it?
I think he's just interested how it works.
God, I'm just joking. Yeah. So it depends on, okay, so there's two kinds of laser eye surgeries. There's, and I'm probably a little outside of my wheelhouse as a non-physician, as a non-nurse, and somebody who doesn't work in the operating room. So I'll answer the question basically. We've been doing laser eye surgery for a number of years, probably 5+ years, but the laser that we are using today, we have acquired in the last year and a half. So it's been something that we've been doing for a while, but the technology keeps getting better, and we keep moving along with that technology to make sure the technology that patients get is the best. So I'll answer it that way. Yeah, great question, and great question for the child over there. Go ahead. Yeah.
So for those that choose like a self-pay option, not to have that big box insurance company, I just have to say it's been really nice working with physicians. I seem to be a regular patient of Dr. Roman, and so, but it's just, that's a blessing, and you know, when we pay at time of service, so it's been nice that the hospital plays ball with that. So
yeah.
Just a word of thanks.
Yeah, that's been a fun thing that we've done over the last couple of years, and I'm not sure if this is what you're alluding to, but for self-pay patients and other times if you know, we're willing to give kind of discounts, or people that pay their bill kind of right at the time of service or within a couple of days, we'll give some discounts. It's good for the patient, it's good for us to get those collections, so I think that's been a good program that we've run, so thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Someone else. All right, we won't keep you. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Robert.